This is part 2 of 3 with adjunct professor and lecturer at the University of Pennsylvania, Monda Mwaya. Here we discuss when the pink flags turn to red flags.
This job I had, you talked about gossiping. When I first started working for this lady, I had just gotten out of a bad situation in my personal life. And I'm thinking, this is my supervisor. In the first 90 days, I'll be taking doctor's appointments. And she was such a micromanager and so evil that she asked me what my appointments were. And I had to tell her that I was going for my fertility things. Do you know that she shared this with my team, Raquel? How I was trying to have a child at a certain age and she didn't think she agreed with it. Are you serious?
Why would you feel so comfortable to share that information even about your pet? I mean, you're a human being. Why in the world would
my younger sister said this to me, who by the way works for the federal government, told me that it doesn't matter. Whatever appointment you have, you don't have to explain it to her.
You don't even have to say
if you had told her you have a doctor's appointment, she should respect that. But you have to also remember, Raquel, I was coming from corporate and now I was in trash. I'm sorry to say this. I was coming from a professional where things are tailored, we have HR, we have things in places, to chaos, to whatever you do, whatever you want to do. And hey, if you want to remain here, you have to kiss my ass. These are things I have never come across in the professional world. In the professional corporate world, you go up according to your merit, not who you kiss ass with or who you buy lunch. This was very foreign and alien to me. Traumatizing, actually, is a word that I think suits this well. I don't know what experiences you've had. And I'm sorry to say this. I came out of this experience and I say to myself, I will never, ever work for a nonprofit where I see certain things going on, because to me, it's a red flag.
So here's what happened. What you're describing is hypervigilance.
Okay.
So what happened is now your guard is up for those early signs. You mentioned pink flags, those red flags. So what happens is your mind starts moving towards picking up those pink flags. You're like, forget it, because by the time they go red, I probably need to be out the door. So the pink flags are like, okay, so I have a manager who is showing me that I can't trust her. So a manager who's dishonest.
Who lies.
Right. Then you have the manager type that the manager is not a good listener. So every time you give her information or him information, you have to tell them it over and over again. So a person that's not registering information that you give them, you need a day off. They could even approve the day, but then turn around and put something on your calendar on that day they did just approve because they're not really paying attention to you. Then you have the manager that likes to take credit for the work that you do. They find little clever ways to ask you questions so that you can start rolling out everything that you know.
She did all of that. I can't believe you're asking.
Oh, yeah.
She did all of that. The spreadsheet, I think they claimed that it was there, that I created with the administrator. Not only that, she now said to people that, oh, Monda is coming from a work from home environment. I'm like, does she know that work from home is actually harder? Because that job, Raquel, was not so hard. And that's why I was able to direct report those 6 people, okay? But she wanted to use my background against me. And I was naive because I didn't really think through the things that when we had our unemployment hearing, she lied, but I was not documenting and making sure that I had my files, because she lied that, oh, I quit. Mind you, she fired me, She said I had, because I had given my notice. I think I've told you this story. But you know what? I could afford it. I had so much stuff that I had a friend of mine who is a labor lawyer who was like, hey, you want to take this to the city? But I was like, I don't want to remember that. Like, for me, it's my past and I learned my lesson, and I will never be, and I hope for sure that I will never ever take a job where I see red flags already. What were the red flags I saw? They were very quick to hire me, okay? They were not giving me what I asked for as a supervisor. I actually went down in my pay, but at the moment I had been wanting to continue my studies. I think I have shared this with you.
Right.
For a PhD.
Right.
And my thought was like, okay, this is an easy enough job. I can do my PhD and then I can still work some like part, this job. But looking back, it was like the worst mistake I ever made in my life, And what is interesting is that any person that I come across who's ever worked there has had the same feeling. There are little cliques, okay? People get together and they gossip about you. So they were bringing me to fail so that they could say, oh, you see, we couldn't fill the position.
Yeah, I've seen it happen before. Oh yeah.
The whole time I was there for 3 months, she kept telling me, oh, we can't find somebody. Because I was like, when is the course supervisor coming? When is the course supervisor coming? And she told me, oh, we can't fill the position. We can't fill the position. Mind you, 2 weeks after I left, the position was filled with 2 supervisors, Raquel.
Wow.
You seem stunned and shocked.
Because you were doing the work of 2 people.
Yes, for 3 months. And doing it well, with no training, with nothing. Yes, but and she wouldn't hire a second supervisor. But as soon as I left, she had a team meeting and said to my team that I was planning to fire them all. I had never given anyone a written warning. I had never had a conversation about performance with any of my teammates. But apparently, according to her, she told them, oh, yeah, Monda was planning to fire you guys. So this is what happened. Do you see how sick this place was?
Oh, listen, and the crazy thing about it is, and when you describe these kind of incidences, when I think about reflective situations that I've had to deal with, oftentimes what I think to myself is it's not as important to validate someone's story just because you're saying, oh, I think you're telling that story in perfect detail, and if it was me, I would do the same thing. No, it's because the torture that you actually go through working out these scenarios, because all you need is a few people at a job that have an agenda, something they're trying to get accomplished, and it's just a means to an end. It could be the silliest story, silliest like OMG moment, but the truth is that you're working in those environments where when you start finding out the reason why somebody has instituted a new policy or start practicing different or started to pick up a different habit or something, you find out these are people who have influence in the operations. They have influence in making decisions, and they just decide to do really silly, illogical, irrational things because it's just a means to an end. It's just something they want to get done. It could sound like the craziest story to where someone says to you, well, why would you let something like that bother you? And it's like, you know what? To a certain degree, it's like you had to just be there. Because there's some crazy things I've experienced in a workplace that I think if I explained it to some people, they would probably think like, well, what, did you know that the job was dangerous? Or like, is that what you signed up for?
But you know what, Raquel, I think just to interrupt you, for me, I did not, one of the things, and you know, I'm always about feedback, and I also am about accountability. One of the things I regret, I did not listen to the reviews. The reviews were very clear on Indeed and Glassdoor on what kind of place this place was. Okay? There's not one positive. Maybe now they've made up some things because they've realized this. Because I even mentioned it to HR, when I had my whatever exit interview, so-called exit interview. But the thing is, these people have been working there all these years. And, I did experience something similar. I think I might have discussed this with you when I worked at a Black HIV nonprofit and the director was not. But you know what? The board was very quick in cleaning up. And they changed everything. And actually, it's doing very, very well right now. It has a woman director. She's a social worker. And she's doing a great job because she does her job, you know. She doesn't want you to be friends with her. You understand? She wants you to do your job. Meanwhile, at this interdiversity, as we're gonna call it, it's about whose ass you're kissing. I'm sorry to use such harsh language, but that's the truth. The woman's daughter works there and she terrorizes everybody. If you just do something wrong to this woman's daughter, you get fired. The team, and they let her get away with it. Do you understand how toxic this situation is?
Oh yeah. And all, like I said, all you need is that you have these bad players who happen to also be decision makers, and they have influence in this, and they have influence in how things play out. Maybe they've befriended management, maybe they are in management, but they have caused whatever it is that they want to have accomplished. They have been able to sink their teeth into the system and get it done. And so it doesn't matter what the scenario is. Like I said, it could be something as simple as, and would you believe that now everybody on Fridays have to wear jeans? And it could be the simplest change, but all of these pink flags show up and you think to yourself, I gotta go. Because you start seeing the pattern of behaviors of influence, the pattern of behaviors for illogical, irrational things to happen. And you're like, if that can happen just with that one person making a suggestion, if that one person also happens to be a bad actor, they like to gossip, they like to gatekeep, they like to sabotage, they hoard information, which is a horrible thing in healthcare, but people do it, where they sit back knowing a bunch of information about a patient and they hold it in because they want to sit back and kind of watch everybody else kind of scramble. And then they get to, have their moment. I used to work with a young lady like that. She would have her moment to say, well, maybe we can do blah, 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 blah. And you sit there in a meeting and you're looking at her like, the whole time we were talking, you knew that's exactly where we're trying to get to.
Let me tell you something about withholding.
Because you needed to position yourself like that. You wanted to wait for everybody else to scramble. Got it.
Yeah, even scrambling. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So as I was telling you, this was a family empowerment program, right? So I had an idea because I kept seeing the trends, of the families who were in danger of losing their kids. And most of them needed parenting, okay? But I knew that just simple resource education, like, oh, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. She told me, we already have a parenting class. So I am a big believer in shadowing my workers. One day I went along with one of my caseworkers, right? And while we were visiting this woman in the home, the caseworker said, oh, did you take the parenting class? And she said, it's not useful because it's on Zoom and they're talking about discipline a child. And what I needed, it's ADHD. Do you know that I had proposed this to my supervisor and she ignored it? And I offered myself. I'm direct reporting 6 people, Raquel. I said, can I do one twice a month, one Saturday morning? Because I know these are working class people, right? And one Wednesday evening, can I do classes and help educate these people? Do you know what? Because it was a brilliant idea, it was ignored.
Wow.
And that's when I realized that I didn't need to be there. And having that experience, having worked in that toxic environment, it made me more aware. It put my how do we call it? My sixth sense up. Nowadays, before I start a job, or I'm gonna be full disclosure. Like in the 90 days, I'm also interviewing the company. I'm also watching and seeing things, and still looking. Okay, because you need to convince me why I need to stay with you. I have my credentials. Okay, I did not get a leg up because I know auntie or my mother works here. I've gone through my career because I work hard. So you can imagine how I feel now, because I feel empowered, because I was kind of naive getting into that, because I had been so safe in the corporate environment, that I didn't think about things like that. For example, my workers had a very high intense job, right? Because they are dealing with inner city families, very intense. These people, some of them are in recovery, some of them are struggling, some of them are almost losing homes. And, I could see the strain. So I was like, oh, why don't you use the EAP program for counseling? Do you want to hear the joke, Raquel?
Tell me.
Get ready for the joke. They looked at me and said, are you out of your mind? It's only 2 sessions. You have worked in mental health field. I have worked in mental health field. We are both advocates of mental health. Can you please tell me which mental health problem can get cured with 2 sessions?
Unless the problem is a financial one, and the first session is collecting all my banking information, and the second session is when I receive the money.
Okay.
It's a psychological problem.
We are laughing. We're laughing, but it's not funny.
It's financial. That could be handled in 2 sessions.
We are laughing. But when I was at Aetna, my aunt passed away. And guess what? I used my EAP to get therapy every week for 4 months. Do you hear me?
Right.
And I didn't have to pay out of pocket for it.
Right.
And they were paying me well. These people are making less than 50,000, Raquel. The copay for them to go to therapy is $90. Because I spoke to my team, and that's why she was determined to get me out of there. And then you tell me you have an EAP program. I was flabbergasted. That's the only word I can think of. Because I said, this is a joke, right? Yeah. Maybe a financial problem, because the first one, they will ask you, okay, Raquel, what do you need to get for housing or whatever? Then you bring your pay stubs or whatever, right? By the second session, you're done. Not grief, not burnout. That's not possible. That is not possible. So they always have a huge turnover, and from what I hear, it's the same nonsense. There was supposedly a new CEO that they brought in, but this woman, I think she's able to manipulate and lie to him that she still gets away with stuff, because why is she still there?
Well, and see, also a part of the investment in being slimy and grimy and spineless is the fact that the person hasn't explored other options. And so therefore they are very invested in all of
Oh yeah, they've been there for, oh my God,
she's extremely invested. So it's like, the risk.
She's been there for more than 10 years. You know this environment very well.
Yeah, so the person is, when a person is that invested, possibly never thought that they would work another job, probably think that this is the place I'm going to retire from. The stakes are much higher, and they're willing to take the risk that you wouldn't even think would be worth it. Because you see, once you put work in its proper context, like if I'm not the CEO of the company, then to me, you can cut ties with me at any time. I can cut ties with you at any time. Right. If the company belongs to me, it's a little different story, right? It's not so easy to separate from a company. So that's yours, right? But I think that's where I think the issue comes in. When you see a person who, especially middle management folks, I find that if they ever felt like they had an edge up, or if they feel like this is just like the moment, this is the moment of their life, they're on their mountaintop and they don't want to come down, that's just the risk that they're going to take. So they're going to shuffle around things. They're going to move the chess pieces around on the board. They're going to screw people over. They're going to, try to twist policies around. If they can show upper management that they can be slimy and they can treat
that they are needed. Yeah, they are needed.
Then they show their value. Like, I can be cutthroat too. I'm not worried about these folks. I had a manager once tell me that I was too soft on my team, and a lot of it was because yes.
Okay. But And meanwhile, she was going behind my team and telling me, she said, "You're too soft with them. What did she say? She said, I manage from my heart. Because she was trying to get me to fire these two individuals. Apparently, they would talk about behind my back. But you know what? I saw it for what it was. They were scared of me. I have an accent. I'm not American, whatever it is. So they didn't know how to deal with me. But I knew that with time, things would be corrected, right? So she was like, "Oh, you're too soft. You should hire this guy.
That insecure.
He doesn't have a car.
Insecure.
Blah, blah, blah." But I'm like, you hired him without a car. How is that my problem?
Exactly.
You knew the role needed a car, and then now the man doesn't have a car. You want to make it my problem? Does that make sense there, Raquel?
Of course. Well, I mean, a part of that, again, going back to set up for failure. The person creates a situation or have you solve problems that they know are like, well, we have a lot of problems for her to solve. So let's see what she does. So then when that problem arises and you knock it down and you don't make it an issue, they come back to say, well, hey, that was a problem for us. Hey, just because that was your stumbling block doesn't mean it's going to be mine.
We want to hear from you. Schedule a free consultation or send us an email at advancednurses@acd4n.com or visit our websites www.advancednurses.info or www.acd4n.com.